So moving into our seventh and final BMP, rainwater harvesting. This is a really fantastic application for locations where there isn't as much rain or the rain events are happening less frequently. And so typical in environments where rainfall or other conditions limit the water supply. Rainwater harvesting, it both collects and stores runoff from roofs and other surfaces. And it can be either directed into a bioretention swale, or it can be rerouted as part of the gray water system of, flushing toilets and things like that inside. The cheaper version is routing a cistern or rain barrel to a bioretention swale versus adding additional plumbing to get it back into your internal water system. There are both above and below ground cisterns. You can use various materials for these cisterns, so fiberglass, polyethylene, concrete, metal, wood. Obviously, if it's a below ground system, wood may not be your material of choice, so really knowing if you're going to site it above ground or below ground and using the appropriate material for where you're siting it. The various components as part of a cistern. Just a few key things to note. You're disconnecting your downspout from your gutter. Roof is going in here. And there is a flow dissipator, and that basically slows the water down from your gutter so it doesn't fly into the cistern, so it's just kind of slowing that flow. Really important, you want to have an overflow pipe, so if it does reach capacity, where is that water going to go? You don't want it to go back up into the gutters, and you want to have a discharge point as well. That's an approved discharge point. You don't want to discharge close to your foundation. You want it to be offset, and you want to make sure that there are the appropriate setbacks where you're placing these things. Cisterns to rain gardens, or just cisterns or just rain gardens, are really fantastic best management practices for homeowners as well, and a really great way for them to get involved on their residential property with stormwater management. And a lot of cities have started these rebate programs to help incentivize homeowners to get involved in stormwater management as well. So some benefits, reduces runoff, so it can really help reduce flooding as well as erosion in small streams by reducing the runoff volume. And you can also use this water for plants. The rainwater doesn't contain things like chlorine and fluoride, which are really common in urban water supply. And so it makes for really fantastic water and happier plants if you're using it. And it's a lot cheaper. I know my water bill goes up in the summer when there's less water around and when you have to actually water the plants. And so having a cistern at my house is a great way to reduce my water bill. So conserving water, reducing your water bill. Savings really do depend on the storage capacity of the system. So the bigger the storage capacity, obviously the more water you will have access to, and the larger your savings potentially will be in the long run. Really important to have proper use of these things as well as maintenance. So I know with one of the projects that I worked on where we did manage a rebate program for homeowners to install cisterns and rain gardens in their property, there is a whole maintenance sheet. And there are maintenance guidelines for preparing the cistern for the winter and preparing the cistern for the summer as well. So making sure that proper maintenance is part of your care of these systems. They can really augment limited groundwater supply and are a sustainable source of water for irrigation as well as other non-potable uses. Other applications, really fantastic, where water availability is scarce, so in arid and semi-arid climates, this is a really great BMP to consider, as well as residential and commercial sites with high irrigation needs. Being able to use water that's been stored in a cistern is really fantastic use of that water. But indoor reuse for toilet flushing as well as laundry. And I know some of the federal buildings are now doing that. So they're harvesting the rainwater, and then they have signage in the bathrooms that say, hey, this water may look a little bit different in the bathroom stalls, and this is why, and telling that story. So it's a really great, fantastic educational opportunity as well. And also using the water for exterior reuse for cleaning, irrigation, and other non-potable uses as well. So lots of really fantastic applications for rainwater harvesting. In the state of Washington, these are some really good resources. The Georgia Rainwater Harvesting Guidelines, as well as Texas, has a really fantastic manual on rainwater harvesting. The state of Washington, there's no state guidance on rainwater harvesting, so these are two really good resources to use to get a little bit more guidance. Another thing to consider in terms of maintenance and year-round use of these systems is the water level, and having it lower at the beginning of the winter in order to prevent damage or cracking of your system. So again, thinking about the year-long use of these systems and the proper maintenance to make sure that they have a long life. So other things to consider, so depending on the type of roof that this rainwater is being harvested from, if it is an asphalt shingle roof, then you really want to avoid watering your vegetables and other edibles with the water. It's only appropriate for collection of stormwater runoff from roofs, not from other impervious areas. So it's that downspout disconnect to your cistern and harvesting that water. Pumping and treatment costs are associated with indoor reuse, and those can be high. So again, that may not be as feasible for a smaller scale project, but if you're talking about a federal or a state building and there's a bit larger of a budget, then could be a good thing to consider. So there was not a lot of clarity before October of 2009 about water right and whether or not a water right was required for reharvesting rainwater. And as of October 12, 2009, Ecology issued an interpretive policy statement that clarified that a water right is not required for rooftop rainwater harvesting. And that unless you have greater than or equal to 5,000 gallons of rainwater that you're harvesting, which is a lot of water, you do not need a water right. So that concludes our last BMP.